Hello, Midnight Coders, and welcome. What if I told you that Java has been carrying around a 30-year-old design decision on purpose? People keep saying that Project Valhalla is about making Java faster. While that's true, it misses the point entirely. So, today we're diving into one of the biggest architectural changes in Java history. So, make sure you've got that full cup of coffee and let's dive on in. In the words of the OpenJDK team, Project Valhalla isn't primarily about making Java faster. It's about fixing a design decision from 1995 that is no longer matching modern hardware. So let's imagine that it's 1995. Java is brand new, memory is expensive, CPUs are slow, and object oriented programming is taking over the world. The decisions back then were brilliant, but 30 years later, they're starting to show their age. Why does Java even have this problem? Well, when Java was born, the philosophy was simple: everything is an object. This was revolutionary. Objects gave Java inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, and safety. The problem was that every object had an identity hash. So imagine you had two different points. Looking at the code on screen, you might think they're the exact same thing. Just because the values are the same doesn't mean that the object identity hash is. This is because they are two separate objects in memory. Therefore, all objects have an object header, identity, semantics, monitoring or like locking. This is like, yeah, they have pointers and references, they have heap allocation, and even if all of that is unneeded, or maybe it's like not even useful for the situation, you still get it. Now, back in the 90s, CPUs were much slower than memory. Today, memory access is one of the bottlenecks in modern processes. So Java's object model is no longer aligning very well with the CPU cache design. So around 2014, Brian Gotes, sorry if I butchered that, and the OpenJDK team officially announced Project Valhalla. Now, why is this necessary? So, imagine again you have this class. It is a point which simply holds an x and y. Now, let's say we have a million of these points. And I bet you imagine that these all sit in memory like so. Well, it doesn't quite work like that. Instead, you get this list of pointers. And many of these pointers have references to objects. What does this mean exactly? More memory, more cache misses, more pointer chasing, more garbage collection work, worse locality, and modern CPUs hate this. So primitive types never had this problem. An array of ints was contiguous memory. No pointers, no extra objects, excellent cache locality, very fast. Why? Because primitives aren't classes. You can't extend them, you can't add methods to them, they don't work they naturally with generics. In the primitive world, we have an int, a double, and a boolean. In an object world, we have an integer, a double, and a boolean. However, these two worlds have been stitched together very awkwardly with boxing, unboxing for about 30 years. Valhalla's goal is to change the way Java thinks about objects. Okay? This object oriented language is going to change how we think about objects. So instead of saying everything is an object, Valhalla instead asks, does every object need identity? Most likely no. So in comes value classes. Now, Valhalla introduces objects that do not have identity hashes. So when you make a point, this is defined only by the values that make it up. So when the identity disappears, the JVM is suddenly free to inline them, flatten them, eliminate pointer indirection, optimize memory layouts without changing Java semantics. Sorry. So why the hell does this matter? Okay. Suppose you have a list of points. All right. We'll say you have 1,000,000 points. That is 1,000,000 objects, 1,000,000 references, and the potential for 1,000,000 cache misses. So Valhalla aims to allow those values to be represented much more densely when possible, dramatically improving locality and reducing allocation overhead while preserving the programming model. Specialized generics are also part of the long-term plan. So this isn't just about performance, or one common misconception about Valhalla is that it is just an optimization. It fixes decades of old issues like wrapper classes. Things like integer exist because primitives could not do everything classes can. Valhalla moves towards unifying those worlds rather than forcing devs to constantly switch between primitives and box forms. So generics are also a problem. Imagine you had a list of integers. This means there can be millions of objects, and because generics only work when they have a reference type. Now, Valhalla's long-term roadmap includes runtime specializations, enabling efficient generics for value and primitive-like types. That's the fundamental for the ideas of a list of int without today's boxing costs. Now, this roadmap has been long. The project itself started around 2014. Since then, the team has spent years redesigning the JVM, bytecode, object layout, memory model, language syntax, reflection, serialization, migration complexity, and unlike many language features, this work reaches deep, deep into the every layer of the Java platform. The current state of Valhalla is no longer just a research project. With JEP 401 value classes and objects, early access builds are available, and continued work on null restricted types enhanced boxing, array enhancements, and parametric JVM for specialized generics. There is a very bright future for Java. Okay, so now Project Valhalla modernizes Java's object model so the JVM can represent data in ways that better match modern hardware while preserving Java's object-oriented model. Okay, so why the hell does why should developers care? Quite frankly, if Valhalla succeeds, everyday code involving immutability, data-heavy projects could use lower memory consumption, fewer heap allocations, better CPU locality, reduced garbage collection pressure, less boxing and unboxing, more expressive data modeling, a more unified type system, and better performance for collections, numeric types, geometric financial types, vectors, dates, similar domain objects. It just goes on. So, in short, Project Loom changes how Java Run works. Project Leiden changes how Java starts. Project Valhalla changes what Java data is. It's a once in a generation redesign of a language's type system that aims to eliminate decades of performance compressions without asking developers to abandon object oriented programming. So, if you enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button to get more. Smash that like button, share this with other devs, and as always, guys, keep your curiosity open, your skills sharp, and that coffee cup full. I'll catch you in the next one. Check out one of these videos. I promise, they're good.